And good evening, and welcome to yet another Warrior SuperCast, the October edition here at the Waycross Studios, featuring those in the know in the Winton School District, highlighting the superstars that are here. It is still election season, and this is our second conversation with those talking about Issue 50, the Winton Woods bond issue. I'm very fortunate to have with me board president, not board president, I've had her before, I have board member Jeff Birdie, and Executive Director of Business Affairs, Steve Denning. Glad that you could both join us this evening and discussing all things the district, one of the bigger things that's been hitting the district as of recently. For those who are not familiar with what's going on, Issue 50 is a bond issue that is basically affecting the district in regards to buildings, repairs, and the schools. Let's just be honest, it's school related. For those who kind of look at it and go, what do we do? What does Issue 50 mean to you? I'll open it to you, Mr. Birdie. And,
okay. Just to give everybody a little bit of background on me, I've been a resident of this school district for a little over 50 years. I went to high school in the Winton Woods High School building that currently exists. It wasn't new when I was there. These buildings are old, and I think at this point we have a very unique opportunity. We've got the state of Ohio that's willing to chip in $49 million to the community to help us get brand new schools, state-of-the-art technology, which our children deserve. And it will actually cost us less as a community to build new buildings than it will to renovate or repair the current structures that we have. As an accountant, that makes a ton of sense to me. That why would I continue to spend more money to repair and replace equipment, infrastructure that doesn't work or that has passed its useful life. And to do that just doesn't make a ton of sense. So I think the community, with the state funding that we've got, has an incredible opportunity to do something, not just for the children today, but for future generations within this school district.
Mr. Denny, same thing. I mean, obviously it affects you as well.
Right. Well, thanks, Jason. And I have kind of the unique perspective of being a staff member. I've worked in the district for almost 17 years, but I'm also a parent.
Right.
So I had a son graduate last year. I also have a daughter there. So I see it through my professional eyes, but I also see it through my kids' eyes. And Issue 50 is really, I think, a great opportunity for our kids, our teachers, our staff, our community, our parents. It's really a chance for us to capitalize on something that may not come our way again. We don't know how long the money from the state is going to be available, but essentially the state themselves came in and assessed our buildings and said, you need to replace these. And we believe in that so much, we're willing to help you with the funding necessary to build new. Because that, again, as Mr. Birdie pointed out, we are now at the point with the state's help that it's actually cheaper to build new than it is to renovate or repair. And when we repair, the money, we don't have money squirreled away somewhere. We have what we have. It's the general fund. We have 2 mills of permanent improvement levy that was passed some years ago. Most of that is debt service. It does give us a little bit to work with each year to repair large items, but the vast majority of that money, by far and away, comes from the general fund, and that's where we pay our teachers, that's where we buy our supplies, that's where the technology to teach kids comes from. So that's part of what we're concerned about, part of what makes this such a golden opportunity, is we have so much assistance from the state.
By that type of description, it sounds like, and me being just the moderator here, just the idea of if you're going into the general fund, you can only cut so many things. However, once you begin to cut, it begins to go to bone, and at that point, you have nothing left. I'm going to speak for the everyman that may be listening or watching today. Cutting it down to the bare basics, you can't go any further, is basically it. And you're also bringing up, Mr. Birdie, the fact that we're getting Ohio money. Mr. Denny brought that up as well. You're getting Ohio State money. That doesn't come around every day. Is this not the advantage? Is this not the time, the advantage to do so before, again, getting into that bare bone?
We're increasingly spending more and more on repairs, and that is to be expected. It's not lack of maintenance. We invest in the buildings appropriately. I have a budget every year, but my budget, sometimes what I request is not granted because there aren't enough monies. It's basically what you just said.
Sure.
There is a limit to how much you can push into repairs and infrastructure without it coming at the expense of something else. And that something else is our core business. We serve kids, we serve families, we educate children, we provide intervention services, all those kinds of things that really can help the district's performance, help us achieve higher grades on the report card, help kids graduate at higher rates, help kids matriculate into college at higher rates. All those things that make our country great, that make our society great, that make our schools worth attending, are sort of compromised when it comes to where's that funding come from. And if we spend so much on buildings, there is a breaking point, as you mentioned. Yes.
I don't like to be the dark cloud and everything, but I do like to bring up the one side versus the other. You have to do it, so I'm going to put my devil's horns on and play the advocate. If it reaches to a no point, what do we see 2017? I mean, obviously it won't, November 9th, it's not going to take that at full effect, but let's just say it's going to affect the students of the 2017-2018 year, graduating class of 18, 19, 20. What does it look like come?
Yeah, as a board, we'll have to take a look at that with the treasurer, with the superintendent, and administration's help, obviously, is to look at, what are we going to have money to do? Because school districts are highly, teacher intensive, there's people, that's where most of the money goes to, is to pay people to teach the students. That's obviously the biggest bucket that could potentially be impacted.
And obviously, Mr. Denny, you were already seeing some of that hit you. Obviously, let's take the devil side up, the angel side on. Obviously, the good news is money's coming in, but it's going for something specific, and that is not necessarily just new schools, because that's what everybody sees. But it's going to open the door for other things. At least that's what I'm envisioning. Is that a correct envision to see?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. I mean, one of the things I think it's important for people to bear in mind is if and when this is passed, the voters approve it, one, we don't get access to the state's money until we pass our local share.
Okay.
So the state basically says, hey, we'll pony up when you, local community, decide that that's in your best interest and that's what you decide to do. And then secondly, it's full service. Like, you get everything that comes with it. So everything inside the building, the fixtures, the furnishings, it's all co-funded by the state, with some limited exceptions that they point out in the Ohio School Design Manual. The other thing is there's a lot of operational advantages. Now if we count the ones from this year, we've held 41 community meetings since 2010 about buildings, about facilities. And one of the things that's come up consistently is we need to run lean and mean. We need to be efficient. And one of the ways to do that is to basically take the 6 buildings we currently own and operate down to 2. There's a lot of economies of scale, savings from new energy efficiencies, and things of that nature. So there's a lot of benefits from combining from 6 to 2, as you might expect.
Sure. Looking at that, it becomes more almost campus related, and it becomes a Winton Woods community kind of idea. How do you think, as a board, how do you think that's going to change the outlook and the trajectory of teaching and the idea of holding in the new tech idea and moving that forward?
I think Mr. Smith has said this before, the community conversation, sometimes the question is academics or buildings. And it's not academics or buildings, it's academics and buildings. We have to give the students an environment that's conducive to learning, to get the progress that we all want. I would encourage everybody to go out and look at the state report card. There is a section in there called progress. We have A's and B's in that section. You can't change anything else on the report card, I don't believe, unless you're actually making progress in the areas that it shows that we're making progress in. If we can't get the buildings, then we are going to have money going to repairs and maintenance and things that are not helping our instructional programs do what they're supposed to do. So, it's really important that we try to keep the momentum going and get the buildings that we need for our children.
Are you finding it a difficult ideal to keep that momentum going? Do you find that you're rolling that hill up but kind of going back?
I don't think we're going back anywhere, no. I think the progress is there. I think the culture has been set by Mr. Smith and his team, and, going to the new tech, the project-based learning, I mean, to me, it's somewhat logical from the standpoint of myself as a learner. I learn better by doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put me in a project and I have hands-on activities that I'm doing, I'm probably retaining more of what I'm being taught than if I'm sitting there listening to someone lecture to me. So to me, it's intuitive that this is a better process, a better way to teach our children. And I'm excited about it. I think the district is moving in the right direction, and we're seeing progress on the academic side with our children.
I'm talking to Jeff Birdie and Steve Denny from the Winton School District here in Warrior Super Chat in October. We're just still discussing the issue 50 that is up on the ballot this season. We were just bringing up the idea, obviously, New Tech is this wonderful momentum that has been building within the district. Do you believe that now is the time, now that we're seeing the buildings all integrating with it, that with the possibility of a yay or a positive going forward with the buildings, do you think that's not a great handshake for not only the district, but for the schools in general?
I love your term, handshake.
Yeah.
I think that's really a huge window of opportunity for us with New Tech. The buildings that we're in now were designed in an era of industrialism, of double-loaded corridors, of efficiency, and sort of the 1950s style model. It's think how much the world has changed in 50 years.
True.
Think how much the world's changed in 10. But the reality is New Tech uses a very particular style of project-based learning that's technology infused. It's about culture that empowers. It's about collaboration. It's about critical thinking. It's about problem solving. Now, we can do those things in our buildings, and we are. But what happens is we get slowed down. Those spaces weren't designed for that. Just a small example, I had to have crews come in. We had to hire contractors to come in and start knocking down walls in the middle school this summer. It was not cheap, and we had to do that in order to provide the flexible space that New Tech requires for the level of collaboration and technology infrastructure support that New Tech really demands to do it right. And we don't want to do it if it's not done right. The kids deserve it. The model deserves it. And I think it bears results. That's one of the reasons we were attracted to New Tech in the first place, is it has great results in terms of matriculation into college and persistence in college. The data is really positive on that. So our facilities can be designed at this point to fully support a 21st century style of instruction, where your spaces are flexible and tech is there. And they're designed for teacher facilitation, not just teacher presentation. There's big differences. Daylighting for optimal productivity, proper airflow, now to current standards, not standards for 50 years ago that are very different. Modern HVAC systems, that provide student comfort and teacher comfort in order to enable them not to focus on those things, but rather to focus on learning.
Well, and you brought up those comfort issues, and I think those are the cherries on the sundae that most people end up seeing. Well, if you're building a new building, you're obviously going to have central air, which means you're going to have lighting this way, and you're going to do that. Well, that's not important. Well, it is important. It has been proven that, if you have proper lighting, you're going to stay awake better. Or if you have a nice cooling and heating system, you're going to be able to function better. But why other than the money aspect and other than the frills, so to speak, those are usually the two items that most people look at. Now, there's obviously a middle in there that most people aren't grasping. Why is that? What is that piece that's missing, and how can we kind of fold that burrito up and make it... I'm hungry, so I like to do food analogies. But I think we understand that, there's got to be a middle ground.
Yeah. Well, I look at it, HVAC, heating and air conditioning is pretty much a standard.
Sure.
I mean, wherever you're at. So I don't really look at that as something that's a frill for the children as we're educating them. If it's the middle of summer and it's 90 degrees in a classroom, not the middle of summer, but if it's
we get
June
those
or
bizarre...
August and the kids are in class and it's 80, 90 degrees outside, that's not a conducive environment for children to learn in. Or as we've said before, you got roofs that leak and things like that.
Right.
That fixes all of that. I don't view it as frills. I view it as this is what they should have to be able to learn.
Sure.
I think part of the middle ground is these buildings belong to everyone. This is not just about schools. It's really about the entire community. In some way, you can step back and look at this and say, you know what, this is actually an economic development strategy for the entire community. What other project could you point at that is going to bring in $110 million in business? That boosts local income tax, it boosts consumerism within the district, within the boundaries of the district. I think there's so many benefits to that. And essentially, if you take the operating savings that we're estimating, the buildings will almost pay for themselves in the 37-year period of the bond. So there's the middle ground is, this is about all of us. It's about the present, it's about the future, it's about our kids, but it's also about our community. And what can we sort of point at to say, hey, young families, you should move here. It's a progressive system. It's the second new tech district in the country. I think that increasingly people are recognizing education has served the American public so well. It's really, truly an American treasure. But it's got to change going forward because the needs of the modern marketplace and the modern student population have changed and shifted. And I think we have to shift with it. And I think Winton Woods is doing that. So I know there's a lot in there.
No.
The reality is, I think this is something for everybody.
I think these are great ways to end it because we're almost getting to the bottom of our time here. But I think what you were hitting on greatly was the fact that it is an investment in the community that normally most investments hit one general pocket. You hit everyone.
Right.
This affects everyone. Mom, dad, the kids. Even to the point where if it's got great walking grounds, you bring in the pets. So you've got everybody involved. But I mean, all kidding aside, I do like to joke around with you. But I mean, the seriousness of it is that this is something that affects everyone. It's not just, well, my kid goes to school here. Well, yeah, you're right, your kid goes to school here. But your kids' kids went to school here. Somebody else's kids went to school here. It does affect everyone. And with that, I believe we actually hit the bottom of our time. I'm glad that both of you were able to join us today on today's event. But I do have a couple of things that Winton Woods is focusing on this month. In the month of October, we will be having another school facilities discussion in October. That'll be October 12th at 6:30. That's going to be in the high school library and or media center, whichever you would like to call it today. We also have one on the 17th, a continuation of our Winton Woods conversations. This will be all about project-based learning. If you haven't been learning about it through Warrior SuperCast, shame on you. If you have, good for you, gold star, but you can also get some more information over at the Media Center as well on the 17th. With that, I will close out October's edition of Warrior SuperCast, the podcast for the Winton Woods School District that highlights the superstars of the district. I'm Jason Grisgorg, very fortunate to bring this information to you. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.